Have you ever felt like your life has gone quiet? Not loud with problems, just quiet. It feels like you are doing everything right. You are praying, you are staying faithful, and yet nothing seems to be moving. No open doors, no recognition, and no visible progress. Deep inside, a question starts to whisper, God, have you forgotten me? I want to tell you something today that could completely change how you see this season of your life. What feels like being forgotten may actually be. Some of the most important people in history went through a season where God hid them, not because he rejected them, but because he was protecting them, shaping them, and preparing them for something their current strength could. There is a pattern in Scripture that many of us miss. Before God elevates someone, he very often hides them first. The hiding is not the end of the story. So today we are going to walk through 7 signs that you may be in a hidden season, a season where God is not ignoring you but preparing you. And by the end, you will be able to tell the difference between silence that means abandonment and silence that means preparation. Let us begin. Sign: doors that used to open are suddenly closed. The first sign is often the most confusing. Opportunities that once came, easy doors you expected to walk through quietly shut. And it makes no sense, because you have not done anything wrong. I think about Joseph. He had a dream from God that he would one day lead. But before that dream came true, he ended up in a pit, then sold into slavery, then thrown into an Egyptian prison for something he did not even do. Genesis tells us that even in prison, the Lord was with him. Notice that God was with him in the closed place, not just in the palace. When God closes a door in a hidden season, he is not. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 9 says, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Sometimes the closed door is God. What looks like rejection is often redirection. Before you assume a closed door means God is against you, consider that he may be steering you towards something you are not ready for today. Sign 2. You feel unusually alone. The second sign is isolation. You look around, and the crowd has thinned. Friendships have faded. Conversations feel shallow. You feel misunderstood, even by people who love you. And this loneliness can be one of the most. But watch how often God works this way. Moses spent 40 years in the quiet wilderness of Midian before God ever spoke to him from the burning bush. 40 years of quiet. Acts chapter 7 tells us it was only after those 40 years had passed that the angel appeared to him. Paul, after his dramatic conversion in Galatians chapter 1, he tells us he went away into Arabia, spending around 3 years, mostly out of sight, before stepping into his calling. God will sometimes separate you from the noise so you can finally hear him clearly. Isolation is not always rejection. Sometimes it is an invitation. It is God pulling you aside to teach you things you could never learn in a. If you feel alone right now, ask yourself honestly, is this abandonment or is this the quiet room where God does his deepest work? Sign 3. Your growth is happening on the inside, not the outside. Here is the third sign. On the outside, nothing looks impressive. There is no new title, no new but on the inside, something is changing. Your character is being refined. Your patience is stretching. Your faith is being tested in ways it never was before. This is the part of the process the world never sees. Luke chapter 2 tells us that Jesus, before his public ministry, grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God, and there were roughly 30 years of preparation before 3 years of ministry. 30 years of ordinary life, of learning, and of growing hidden in Nazareth. If the Son of God himself walked through hidden years of preparation, why do we assume our own hidden season is a mistake? In a hidden season, God is more interested in who you are becoming than in what you are, because a gift can take you somewhere that your character cannot keep you. God hides you to build the inside strong enough to hold the outside blessing. Sign 4. Your old strategies stop working. The fourth sign can be deeply frustrating. The things that used to work for you simply do not work anymore. The hustle, the connections, the clever plans, they all seem to hit a wall. You push, and nothing gives. This is often God gently removing your... Remember the widow in 2 Kings, chapter 4. She was drowning in debt, and the miracle came not through her own cleverness, but through obedience and dependence. The oil multiplied, but only as she followed the word given to her. When your own strength runs out, that is often the exact moment God is teaching you to lean on Him. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 9 records God's words to Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Sometimes God lets your strategies fail so that you finally discover His strength. The end of your self-reliance can be the beginning of your breakthrough. Sign 5. You are being tested in the small and unseen things. The 5th sign is subtle. You start facing tests that seem too small to matter. Being faithful in a job nobody notices. Keeping your integrity when no one is watching. Serving without recognition. And you wonder, does any of this even count? It counts more than you know. Jesus said in Luke chapter 16, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." God watches how you handle the small hidden assignments, because that is how He determines what He can trust you with next. David was faithful with a handful of sheep long before he was trusted with a nation. And while he tended those sheep alone, he learned to kill the lion and the bear. The preparation nobody saw that made Goliath possible. The hidden season is filled with small tests that are actually big decisions. How you steward the little reveals whether you are ready for the much. Do not despise the small assignment. It may be the very interview for your future. Sign 6. You have an unexplainable sense that something is coming. The 6th sign is more of an inner witness than an outward event. In the middle of the silence, you feel it, a quiet, persistent sense that this is not the end of your story, that God, even when the evidence around you says nothing is happening, something in your spirit refuses to give up. That is not wishful thinking. That is often God sustaining. Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11 records God's promise, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Habakkuk chapter 2 says, "The vision is for an appointed time, and though it lingers, we are to wait for it, because it will surely come." That deep sense that your best days are still ahead may be the Holy Spirit keeping the promise alive in you while you wait. Hold on to that inner witness. Feed it with Scripture, not with fear. Sign 7. The waiting is producing patience, not panic. The 7th and final sign is the fruit of the whole process. In a healthy hidden season, something shifts. You stop frantically trying to force everything open. You still hope and you still pray, but there is a growing peace underneath it. You begin to trust God's timing instead of fighting it. James chapter 1 tells us to let patience finish its work so that we may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 reminds us, "There is a time for everything, a season for every purpose under heaven." God is not late, He is precise. When you find yourself able to wait without falling apart, when the delay produces trust instead of despair, that is a sign the hidden season is doing exactly what God intended. He is not just preparing a breakthrough for you, He is preparing you for the breakthrough, because a blessing that arrives before your character is ready can become a burden you cannot carry. So, let me bring this home. If you are walking through a season right now that feels quiet, isolating, and slow, I want you to consider something. Maybe you are not being forgotten. Maybe you are being formed. Every person we talked about today Joseph, Moses, David, Paul, even Jesus walked through a hidden season before. But I want to be honest and balanced with you because Scripture is honest with us. Not every hard season is automatically a hidden season of preparation. Sometimes a closed door is simply a wrong direction. Sometimes isolation is a signal to work on our own hearts. And sometimes ongoing struggle needs practical wisdom. We should never spiritualize everything and ignore the real steps God calls us to take. Discernment matters. So does taking responsibility for what is actually in our hands to do. But if you are staying faithful, seeking God, and simply cannot see the movement yet, take heart. The hiding is not the ending. Isaiah chapter 49 verse 2 gives us a beautiful picture. God says, "He hid his servant in the shadow of his hand and concealed him like a polished arrow in his quiver." Think about that. An arrow is hidden in the quiver, pulled back into darkness and stillness, not to be buried, but to be launched. The pulling back is not the opposite of being sent. It is the setup for it. So do not waste your hidden season to use it. Grow in it. Draw close to God in it. Build your character, deepen your prayer life, and stay faithful in the small things. Because the God who hid you is the same God who will one day reveal what He has been preparing all along. And when that day comes, you will understand that the silence was never. If this message encouraged you today, take a moment and write in the comments, "God is preparing me, not forgetting me." Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that and if you want to keep growing in biblical truth like this, subscribe to the channel and let us keep walking this journey together.